My son-in-law slid a folded napkin across the table to me during my daughter's birthday dinner. I thought it was a joke at first. We were sitting at a round table at Carrabba's, 8 of us, candles, breadsticks, the whole thing. But when I looked down and read what he'd written in that tight, careful handwriting of his, "Check your power of attorney document. Tonight. Don't tell anyone at this table." I felt the blood drain out of my face. I looked up at him. He was already laughing at something my son-in-law from my other daughter was saying. His expression gave nothing away. That was a Thursday in late October, 2 years ago now. And I still can't think about that dinner without feeling the weight of that folded napkin in my hand. I should back up. I'm 68 years old. I retired from 26 years at the Postal Service 4 years ago with a decent pension, about $2,200 a month. And I'd managed to save a little over $300,000 in a 403(b) from a part-time teaching position I held at a community college in the evenings for almost a decade. I owned my home outright, a 3-bedroom craftsman in Spokane, Washington that my late wife Lorraine and I bought in 1991 and paid off in 2014. No debt, no drama. I was one of the lucky ones, and I knew it. After Lorraine passed, pancreatic cancer, 7 weeks from diagnosis to the end, my daughter moved back to Spokane from Portland. She said it was because she missed the city. I knew it was because she was worried about me. I didn't argue. I was glad to have her close, and her husband, a quiet mechanical engineer named Cody, who I'd always liked without ever fully understanding, bought a house about 3 miles from mine. That first year after Lorraine, I was not well. Not clinically, not that I sought help for it, but I was hollowed out in a way I hadn't expected. I'd made coffee for 2 people for 31 years. You don't just stop doing that in your head. I'd stand at the counter and reach for a second mug before I remembered. My daughter was the one who started talking about estate planning. She was gentle about it, the way she's gentle about everything. She came over one Saturday with a folder and sat across from me at the kitchen table and said she'd been reading about what happens to assets when someone doesn't have documents in order. She said she wasn't trying to rush me. She just didn't want me to be in a vulnerable position. I thought she was right. I agreed with her. I had a will from 1998 that still listed Lorraine as my executor. She said she'd found an attorney who specialized in elder estate planning. She'd already made an appointment. Did I want her to come with me? I said yes. The attorney's office was in a low brick building near the river. The attorney himself was about 60, thick around the middle, reading glasses on a chain. He walked me through everything in plain language: a new will, a revocable living trust, an advance healthcare directive, and a durable power of attorney. The power of attorney was what gave me pause. I understood the concept. If I became incapacitated, someone needed to be able to manage my finances, pay bills, handle banking, deal with my pension administrator. That person, my attorney explained, would have broad authority to act on my behalf. My daughter was sitting next to me. I didn't even hesitate. I named her. She was my only child. She had moved back to Spokane for me. She had found this attorney, driven me here, sat through 2 hours of estate planning documents with me. Of course I named her. I signed everything in the spring. We went to lunch afterward. She ordered the salmon. I had the chicken marsala. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand and said, "I'm glad we did this, Dad." I was glad too. For about 18 months, nothing changed. She checked in on me regularly. We had Sunday dinners. I started playing pickleball 3 mornings a week at the community center, which sounds ridiculous but genuinely helped me. I slept better. I started cooking again. Real cooking, not just reheating things. Then gradually, so gradually, I couldn't name a moment when it started. Things began to feel different. She started asking about my financial accounts more often, not in a concerning way, just casually. How was the pension holding up? Had I thought about moving my retirement savings into something less volatile? A friend of hers had a financial advisor she trusted. Did I want an introduction? I said I was fine where I was. My 403(b) was with Fidelity, had been for 15 years, and I wasn't looking to move it. She mentioned the financial advisor again a month later. This time she had a brochure. Looking back, I can see it now, the pattern of it. But in the moment, she was just my daughter being attentive. She'd always been organized, always been the one who researched things, made spreadsheets. It felt like her personality, not a plan. She also started making small comments about the house. Had I thought about whether I really needed 3 bedrooms? The market in Spokane was doing well. Some of her friends had downsized and loved it. She could help me look at options if I was interested. I wasn't interested. I told her so. She dropped in. She always dropped it. That was the thing. She never pushed hard enough to make me suspicious. She'd float something, I'd decline. She'd smile and change the subject. It felt like consideration. It was misdirection. The thing I didn't know. The thing Cody knew and had been trying to figure out how to tell me for months was that my daughter had opened a joint account at a credit union in my name using the power of attorney. She had redirected 3 months of my pension deposits into that account. She had also contacted Fidelity twice, inquiring about the process for a POA holder to request a full liquidation and transfer of a retirement account. Fidelity had flagged the second inquiry. Their elder financial protection team had called the number on file for my account. My number. I'd gotten a voicemail I thought was a scam and deleted it. Cody had found out because my daughter had left a browser tab open on their shared home computer. He saw the credit union account statement. He saw my name. He saw the balance, which should have been 0 because I hadn't opened any account at any credit union, was $11,000. He sat with that for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of sleeping next to my daughter, eating dinner with her, driving to work and back. 3 weeks of trying to figure out what he was seeing, whether there was an innocent explanation, whether he was wrong. He was not wrong. He didn't come to me directly because he was afraid my daughter would find out before I had a chance to act. He was afraid too, afraid of being wrong, afraid of being right, afraid of what it meant for his marriage either way. He is a methodical person, an engineer by nature and by training, and he needed to understand the full shape of the thing before he could hand it to me. By the time of my daughter's birthday dinner, he had pulled the credit union account information, found the POA document my daughter had filed with them, and spoken quietly with a colleague whose wife was a financial crimes attorney. He knew what it was. He just needed me to know too. So there I sat, in Carrabba's, holding a folded napkin. My daughter laughing at the head of the table. The birthday girl, 39 years old, wearing the earrings I'd given her mother on our 10th anniversary because she'd asked for them after Lorraine died and I'd said yes. I excused myself to use the restroom. In the hallway near the kitchen, I stood under a flickering light and read the napkin again. Check your power of attorney document. Tonight. Don't tell anyone at this table. I'll call you at 9. My hands were shaking enough that I had trouble getting the napkin folded back up. I went back to the table. I ate. I watched my daughter talk and laugh and refill her wine glass. She reached over at one point and touched my arm and asked if I was having a good time. I said I was. I said the food was great. I said I was just tired, probably going to head out a little early. She said, "Of course, Dad, don't push yourself." I drove home on autopilot. I don't remember the turns, the lights, any of it. I walked in the front door and sat at the kitchen table in the dark for I don't know how long before I remembered to turn a lamp on. At 9 o'clock, my phone rang. Cody spoke quietly, like he was in a room he wasn't sure was empty, and he told me everything. The credit union account. The pension redirects. The Fidelity inquiries. He told me about the colleague's wife, the financial crimes attorney, who he'd spoken to in the vaguest possible terms. He told me what she'd said, that what he was describing, if accurate, was elder financial abuse under Washington state law, a felony. When he finished, I didn't say anything for a moment. He said, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I'm telling you this." I said, "Don't apologize. You did the right thing." That night, I found the original POA document in my file cabinet. It was exactly what I'd signed. Nothing had been altered. What my daughter had done was take a certified copy, the one the attorney had prepared for me to give to financial institutions as needed, and used it to open accounts and make inquiries without my knowledge. She had the legal document. She did not have my consent. In the morning, I called my estate planning attorney before he'd even had his first coffee. I explained what Cody had told me. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I want you to do nothing. Don't confront her. Don't close the credit union account. Don't contact Fidelity yet. Come see me today." I went to his office at 11. He had already called an attorney colleague who worked in financial fraud litigation. She joined us by phone. Together, the three of us mapped out what had happened and what to do. The first thing they told me was that the power of attorney could be revoked immediately. It required nothing more than a signed revocation letter filed with the county and sent by certified mail to any financial institution where it had been used. I signed the revocation letter at that table. The second thing they told me was not to tip my daughter off. Every day she didn't know I knew was another day the paper trail stayed intact. That was the hardest part. Not the legal paperwork. Not even the grief, which was a kind of grief I hadn't anticipated and couldn't name. It sat in my chest like a stone that was also a bruise. The hardest part was Sunday dinner the following week. She made pot roast, my favorite. She'd called ahead to make sure I was coming. She poured me a glass of cab and asked about my pickleball game, and I sat across from her and talked about a backhand I'd finally figured out, and I could feel myself watching her the way you watch a stranger. It lasted 3 more weeks. The financial crimes attorney, working with a contact at the Washington State Department of Financial Institutions, had gathered enough documentation to move. The credit union had been quietly cooperative once they understood what they were dealing with. Fidelity provided records of both POA inquiries. My pension administrator confirmed the redirect of 3 months of deposits, totaling $6,000 and some change. On a Tuesday morning, my daughter was contacted by a detective with the Spokane County Sheriff's Office. She called me that afternoon. I let it go to voicemail. Her message sounded scared, then confused, then angry. She said there was a misunderstanding. She said she'd been trying to protect me. That she'd been setting the credit union account up as a backup emergency fund. That she hadn't meant to do anything wrong. She said she needed me to call her back. She said she needed me to tell them there was a misunderstanding. I listened to that voicemail 4 times. Each time I tried to hear something in it that would make it not what it was. There was nothing. What investigators found, once they had full access, went beyond what Cody had seen on that browser tab. My daughter had not only redirected pension deposits and made inquiries with Fidelity, she had contacted my homeowner's insurance company using the POA, requesting that mail regarding the policy be redirected to her address. She had spoken to a real estate attorney about the process for a PO holder to authorize a home sale. She had a folder on her laptop. This came out later in the course of the legal proceedings, titled simply with my address. In it were comps, the current SILO estimate of my property, and a note with the name of a listing agent. She'd not gotten to any of that. Cody had found that browser tab first. My daughter hired a criminal defense attorney. For several months, nothing moved quickly because nothing in the legal system moves quickly. I had returned the $11,000 from the credit union to my own account. My pension was restored. Fidelity had placed a protective flag on my account that required verbal confirmation from me for any changes. The POA was revoked. I will not describe the family conversations that happened during that time, because I am still not sure I have the right words for them, and I'm not sure I want to find them. She pled guilty to 1 count of financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult, a Class B felony under Washington state law. Her attorney had negotiated the single count in exchange for full restitution and cooperation. She was sentenced to 5 years of probation, mandatory financial counseling, and a fine. She will not serve prison time if she completes probation without violation. People have opinions about that. I have heard some of them. My own opinion is harder to describe. I don't think the sentence is the point, or at least not the whole point. The point for me was the revocation letter. It was putting my name back in charge of my own life. It was picking up the phone and calling Fidelity myself, being greeted by a customer service rep who verified my identity and confirmed that my account, $300,000 I'd saved over 15 years of early mornings and late drives home, was intact. Cody and I don't talk about it much. There's a conversation we've had once that I think will have to be had again eventually about what his life looks like now, about whether the marriage survives something like this. I don't ask. He doesn't offer. We still watch football on Sundays sometimes, the two of us, at my kitchen table with sandwiches, and I'm grateful for that in a way I couldn't have anticipated. I took the pickleball clinic at the community center in January. Actually paid for the full 8-week session this time instead of just dropping in. There was a man in the Tuesday morning group, maybe 72, 73, who told me he'd signed over financial power of attorney to his nephew the year before and was starting to have doubts about it. We were standing at the net between games, sweating, both of us red in the face. I told him to go home and read the document, all of it, then call his own bank, not the person holding the POA, just him, and ask them to add a verbal confirmation requirement to his account for any changes. He looked at me like I'd said something strange. I said, just do it, today. I don't know if he did. I hope he did. I think about Lorraine sometimes when I'm driving to the community center. The early light flat and low over the Spokane River. The kind of cold that feels clean rather than punishing. She would have known something was wrong before the napkin. She always knew. She would have picked up on some shift in my daughter years before I did, some change in the room temperature when they were in the same space, and she would have come to me quietly with it. But she's not here, and I figured it out anyway, with help. That's the other thing I've had to sit with, the help. I am 68 years old. I spent 26 years sorting mail and learning every street in this city and believing that I knew how to read people and situations. I was wrong, and someone I barely understood had to hand me a napkin in a restaurant to help me see it. That's not a comfortable thing to live with, but it's an honest one. My accounts are mine. My house is mine. My name is on everything I want it on, and only where I put it. Every document I've signed in the past 2 years I've had reviewed by my attorney before I touched a pen. I have a binder in my file cabinet with a record of every account, every policy, every beneficiary designation, and my neighbor, a retired school teacher who has known me for 20 years, has a copy of that binder in her own file cabinet. Not a family member. My neighbor. I am not afraid of needing help someday. I am not afraid of being old. I am careful about the difference between someone who wants to help me and someone who wants to help themselves. The napkin is still in my coat pocket. The winter coat, the charcoal one I've had since 2019. I don't know why I kept it. It's been through the wash twice now and the handwriting has faded to almost nothing. But I can still read it if I hold it in the right light. Check your power of attorney document tonight. Don't tell anyone at the stable. Good advice from an unexpected source at the right moment. That's the only kind of luck I believe in anymore. I think about that folded napkin more than I probably should. A piece of paper. Ballpoint pen. 9 words. And yet without it, by spring I might have had nothing left. No retirement account. No house. No version of my own life that I'd actually chosen. That's the part that stays with me. Not the anger, which faded slower than I expected but did fade. Not even the grief, though that one comes back in waves, usually when I'm doing something ordinary. Making coffee. Backing out of the driveway, hearing a song Lorraine used to hum in the kitchen. What stays with me is the shape of how it happened, the cause and the effect of it, because nothing in this story appeared from nowhere. Every piece of it grew from a decision someone made. My daughter made her decisions and they led her exactly where they led her. I don't say that with satisfaction. I say it because it's true, and because I spent too many nights trying to find an explanation that would make her choices something other than what they were. There wasn't one. When you use someone's trust as a tool, the consequences of that aren't bad luck. They're arithmetic. Cody made his decisions too. 3 weeks of silence while he figured out the full shape of the thing, and then a folded napkin across a restaurant table. He didn't have to do that. He had every reason not to. His marriage, his comfort, the easier road of not knowing officially what he already knew unofficially. He chose the harder thing. That's not a small choice. That's the kind of choice that reveals what a person is actually made of, when the stakes are real and the easier path is right there. And I made my decisions. Some of them, years ago, I made too easily. Signing documents without reading far enough, trusting without verifying, letting someone else's attentiveness substitute for my own. That's the honest accounting of it. I was not a passive victim in every sense. I was a man who had stopped paying attention to his own life because grief had made paying attention feel like too much work. What I know now, at 68, that I wish I'd understood more clearly at 64. Taking care of yourself is not selfishness. It is not coldness. It is not distrust. It is the most basic responsibility you have. To yourself, to the people who actually love you, and to the future version of you who will have to live with whatever decisions the current version makes. Cody was watching out for me because I had stopped watching out for myself. That's a debt I'll carry differently than the other kind. I also know this. Intelligence without honesty is just cleverness, and cleverness in the wrong hands is a weapon. My daughter was smart. She planned carefully, moved slowly, knew exactly which documents to use and how. None of that intelligence served her or me or anyone because it wasn't anchored to anything decent. And the stubbornness it took me to get through those 3 weeks of Sunday dinners and phone calls and keeping my face neutral, that same stubbornness I used to think of as a flaw, turned out to be the thing that held everything together long enough for it to matter. My neighbor has a copy of my financial binder. My attorney has my revocation letter on file. My Fidelity account requires my voice to change anything. I did those things, not because I'm afraid, because I'm paying attention now. That's all any of us can do, really. Pay attention. Make the honest choice, hold on long enough to see it through.